favourites for this course. Ideal conditions for him, although of course it is very, very short. He needs to get up to pace as quickly as possible here, doesn't he, Mags? That's the key here. You can't really bed yourself in.
No, you can't. It's ideally not peak effort as you get out of the gate. It's not a 4K pursuit type of start, but it's still, you have to ramp up quickly and then settle into some form of a rhythm over the first sort of 3, maybe 4 minutes, and then is max from there on in.
Of course, warm-ups for time trials crucial, and for a shorter time trial and a team time trial even more so. Over a 40 or 50k time trial, there's a bit. It's brutally hard, but not quite the same effort as this. You have to hit the ground running. You have to be completely warmed up if you're in with trying to get a result in this TT. And there we go. That's that little final left-hander before the road opens up for around 4k, and we'll get the time check in around 4 kilometres time. First of all, the only intermediate time check comes at 4.4 k's as we look ahead to Affini again. Physiologically, Affini and Ganna are very, very similar riders, aren't they? Same kind of stature and generate similar kind of power.
Yeah, I think Ganna's possibly slightly, in favour on this type of shorter effort. It tends to be a little bit more sort of powerful on the 1 to 4 minutes, but I would say because we're also doing this time trial, that's the very last stage after a hard week of racing. It's completely different as well compared to a standalone effort like an individual pursuit or world championship time trial. It just changes everything.
The style there of Edoardo Affini, under 23 time trial champion of Europe back in 2018. And 4th in the under-23 Worlds in 2018 as well. And a bronze medalist last year in the European Champs, so great time trial specialist. And there you go, look at his watts at the moment, 500 watts holding. And this is the sort of power these big men can hold. The smaller climbers nowhere near that. But they're bigger in stature, therefore they need to make sure they punch a smaller hole in the air. It takes more power to punch through the air when you're that big compared to one of the climbers.
It's also a lot about the discipline of holding the position on the bike, making sure you're holding your head in the right position. So we saw Affini there dropping his head down into his hands like that. That changes the aerodynamics of his helmet and actually acts as a bit of an air brake, if you will, with that tail of the helmet going up. That's why they're not using the really, really long tail helmets anymore like we used to do a number of years back. But he's just dropping his head that little bit too low. And with that, he's changing the aerodynamic flow over himself.
Well, Affini, 24-year-old from Italy, born in Mantua. Looks like he's going to post a very, very good time here. It's around 350 metres to go, still into that headwind, so not quite as quick on the way out, but this is very, very good. 11:07 and counting. Remember, the fastest time being set by Matthias Brendley so far with 11:30, and the clock ticking away. 300 metres now for Edoardo Affini. Pressing on, turning a huge gear down at the finishing straight here in San Benedetto del Tronto. 5 seconds and counting. He's not going to make it again. So, Matthias Brendley still sets the fastest time here. But a very, very good effort. Good enough for third place. 4 minutes, 0.06 seconds adrift. Well, Brendley's time, very, very good indeed, and just wasn't good enough. I wonder if that kind of, when his back end drifted out, Magnus, well, that cost him a few seconds. Maybe not 4, though, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, I think the drift itself didn't cost him that much, but I reckon the fact that he had he was looking down at the gears, he was trying to put the chainring back onto the ring, or the chain back onto the chainring, and yeah, I think he was definitely in that sort of 4 or 5 second mark, but not taking anything away from Brendley, who's done a great time trial here today. New fastest time though for the intermediate there. Florian Vermeersch is set at 4:48 with 55 kilometers an hour average.
Yeah, that's 2 seconds faster than the time being set at the end of the race by Matthias Brendley. And there we go, Lawson Craddock second at 2 seconds. Well, these are the actual times. It's a great time there by Lawson Craddock. Bodnar Terpstra good performance by him, but you'd expect all the powerfully built riders to ride well over a course like this. Just look at the way he thought about staying on the skis there, staying on the tri-bars, but opted against it. Very, very technical indeed. And that's the benefit of knowing your bike. These riders, these TT specialists will ride many, many hours a week, sometimes 5 or 6 hours a week on their TT bikes to make sure they can handle them. Because as we've said time and time again, but it's worth pointing out here, Magnus, they handle so much more differently than a road bike, especially cornering.
Yeah, they definitely do, but and also it depends on the bike itself, the setup of the bike you have, how your tri-bars are sort of positioned against the bike. So with Filippo Ganna, he's got a very extreme position with his handlebars, just to get the hands up as much as he possibly can in front of his face. We're still staying within the UCI regulations, but I also think that is somewhat limiting his sort of handling of that bike. But when you look at him at full flight here now, poetry in motion, that
it is. He's feathering around 500 watts. Coming out of that corner, he was sat on 700 watts, dropped down to 600. There's no way you could maintain that for the whole time, but just shows the amount of power that he's got coming out of those corners, and just shows you the kind of power you have to put in the bike to get up to speed, Magnus, as well. Yeah,
the new best time by Filippo Ganna there, 4 minutes and 30 seconds at that first intermediate. 58.667 kilometers an hour to the first intermediate.
That's incredible. That's 18 seconds quicker than Affini and Vermeersch. Well, that just shows, and that's only at 4.4 Ks. This man is eating up this course. Wonderful kit there, of course. The Italian champion. I do like that tricolore. Very, very special indeed. And he is the fastest man in the world over 4,000 metres. I think he may be the first man in the world in the future to go under 4 minutes for a 4,000 metres. You couldn't rule against him, but he is so powerful.
Yeah, he definitely is. But when you look at him on the bike as well, you can see that he's completely at home on that time trial bike, and the position that they've got him into as well is something quite special.
It certainly is. Well, this is Mikkel Bjerg, just about to take his start. He gets the countdown. He rolls off the ramp. And down he goes. Now, the ramp here is located on the Viale Tamarici. That is the South Wharf. And off he goes, aided by that tailwind.
Just to say here as well, though, Mikkel Bjerg is the under-23 individual time trial champion, 2017, 18 and 19.
Yeah, won it 3 years back-to-back, didn't he? Yeah. Very, very, as you just described, he is an exceptionally good TT specialist. And this man on the course as well, Florian Vermeersch, set the second fastest intermediate time split, just a shade quicker than Affini and Bodnar. But then Ganna came along and wiped the floor with that, set a completely different time, 18 seconds over 4.4 Ks, which of course is 400 metres over his specialist distance. But that is a very, very good time, and I would say a slight surprise from me. This is a great performance by the Belgian.
Yeah, it is a great performance, but he's of that type of rider who can put some big numbers out for a relatively short period of time. So a lot of the actual lead riders and some of the more powerful sprinters, this is not out of their comfort zone completely. It's when the time trials get a little bit longer that they sort of fade away a bit compared to a pure specialist like Filippo Ganna. But Ganna is so far, he looks in a class of his own.
Well, this is Vermeersch just coming down the finishing straight. Great ride by him, only 5 seconds shy, 11.35 for the Belgian. He's got to be very, very happy with that indeed. But as you said, these sorts of efforts quite often suit some of the sprinters. You quite often see sprinters posting very, very good prologue times between 5 and 9 kilometres and shorter. So like you say, not always a surprise. Mario Cipollini could always post a good prologue time as well, because he's got the amount of power. I just use him as one example of a sprinter who can perform well. Mark Cavendish won the prologue in the Tour de Romandie a few years ago, and the Tour of Britain as well.
Yeah.
As we look at Ganna now thundering down here, 1,500 metres to go. He's a really good look at the style. It's the praying, it's a classic example here, Magnus, isn't it, of that praying mantis style, high but very, very narrow centrally.
Yeah, exactly. It used to be a couple of years ago that we all went as low as possible. Everything was just trying to get lower and lower and lower, whereas nowadays the handlebars are actually coming up a lot higher, and we're trying to sort of get the hands up in front of the face, get the shoulders to come up in a position where you can then sort of shrug them like you would when on the really, really cold day, so that your frontal area gets narrower, and you eliminate any sort of air pockets along behind the shoulders themselves, in that sort of area, just behind where effectively where the green finishes on Filippo Ganna's jersey there. That's one of the big areas for aerodynamic turbulence. But yeah, he's looking absolutely dialed in.
Indeed. Well, look at that. Still, there's only 500 metres to go, Magnus, and he has 1 minute and 15 in hand. This is a quite amazing performance. He's going to topple Matthias Brandley by over 30 seconds, I think. This is absolutely astonishing. Well, is it? We expected this man to deliver a superb performance here on the final stage of Tirreno, 10.1 Ks, and he has ripped the field apart so far. Still 1 minute in hand here, coming into the last couple of hundred metres. Ganna, the Italian champion, riding for Ineos Grenadiers, is going to set a mark that is going to be mightily difficult to beat. Ganna crosses the line, 10:42, 56.6 kilometres an hour, a whopping 48 seconds ahead of the rest. Over that distance, Magnus, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, that is. You've just witnessed something very special indeed. I don't think I've seen anyone go anywhere near, 11 minutes on